55,000 French and probably a couple of Portuguese descended on the Stade Velodrome in Marseille, a stone's throw from the French Riviera. He played again for France in 1986 World Cup, and where they would lose to the Germans in the semi-finals on penalty again. Sound familiar? Yes. Tournament was Platini. It was France. It was magnifique.
Something else that Euro 88 was known for was the rare occurrence of a whole tournament with no sendings off, no goalless draws, and no extra time or penalties.
Wow.
Then Netherlands faced England and blew them away with a Van Basten hat-trick in Peter Shilton's 100th game for England.
Wow.
They're only allowed to take 20, although England only managed to take 19.
Brilliant.
Because by all accounts, Taylor selected Mark Wright, but didn't realise that he was injured. And on the day where they were heading off, he's like, "Oh, where's Mark Wright?" One of his teammates said, "Oh, he's still up in Liverpool." But by then the deadline had passed and they couldn't bring in another player, so they went with 19 rather than 20. We're red, we're white, we're Danish Dynamite.
Danish Dynamite.
Well, they sung it in English.
I guess so, yeah.
It didn't rhyme in Danish.
No, maybe it did. Barry Davis commentary of Broline, Darlene, Broline, brilliant! Right into the top corner, 82nd minute, crushed England hearts, and Sweden go through.
Broline, Darlene, Broline, brilliant goal!
We're back with Euro 84, and it needed to be a good one because the tournament actually faced the possibility of being axed if it was another bad tournament because it was getting so little support. But boy, did it deliver. In the balmy Gaelic summer of 1984, it gave us one of the greatest Euros in history. And in my research, it's often been referred to as people's favourite ever Euros in their history, people that were there to witness it. And it's actually one that people on our shores in Britain didn't really witness much at all because we didn't qualify. None of the home nations qualified. It wasn't televised.
Not at all.
They showed one of the group stages matches. I think it was Spain v West Germany, and which wasn't even a great match. And they showed the final, and that was it.
Sore losers.
Yes, sore losers. But the format was changed from 1980, so they still had 8 teams, 2 groups of 4, but the top 2 went through to play semi-finals rather than going straight to the finals. The 3rd and 4th playoff scrapped, never to return.
Hey.
And this format is kind of much more like the tournament style formats we're used to today, with the group stage going into knockout rounds, and this exact format and a number of teams stayed the same for the subsequent 8 European Championships.
Spoiler
alert, yeah. Now, France were chosen as hosts, and they were actually one of the favourites for the tournament. And it's what I like to see in a tournament. It's like a classic international tournament in the host country being one of the favourites, and it's a kind of football mad country, good stadiums, good fans, and kind of a theme to it. Unlike something like the World Cup we've just had in Qatar, and I think this current Euros in Germany is back to it from the last one being split across different countries. Right, this Euros being in Germany, the current one we're watching at the moment, is kind of back to this kind of classic style where the host country is somewhere that you would actually associate with being a footballing nation as well. And they did, yeah. So France did have a chance to win this. They didn't have much of a history at this point in football, but it was quite exciting times for the French team. Other teams Portugal and Romania were making their debuts. Portugal had only played in the World Cup in '66, the Eusebio tournament. But apart from that, nothing. This is Portugal's first outing. It's kind of much more like the tournament style formats we're used to today. From what we see today, group stage going into knockout rounds, and this exact format, and like a number of teams stayed the same for the subsequent as well as 8 European Championships. Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. Didn't qualify, and wasn't televised over here. Now, France were chosen as hosts, didn't qualify, and they were actually Soviet Union, one of the favourites specialists in the past. Kind of did not qualify. It's what I like to see in a tournament. It's like Hungary and the Netherlands international tournament in the host country being one of the favourites, and it's a kind of football mad country. Good stadiums, good fans. After seeing all these teams that didn't qualify, I thought I'm going to have a look at the qualifying round. It was crazy. Like in England's group, we narrowly missed out to Denmark after losing to them at Wembley. And this is the first ever time Denmark kind of had an exciting team with the emergence of Michael Laudrup, and they had a few others in there, but it was kind of the first time Denmark were a force. Apart from that, England did pretty well in the qualifying, so they lost that game to Denmark, but they also lost to Greece, and if they'd have beaten Greece, they would have qualified instead of Denmark.
Oh, we needed a Beckham free kick.
Needed a Beckham free kick. John Barnes wasn't quite enough. But actually, saying that, the match that everyone was talking about in England was the England-Brazil friendly in the summer of '84 at the Maracanã, where John Barnes scores the wonder goal.
That was a wonder goal.
If we'd have qualified for the Euros, that never happened.
Yeah.
Italy were pretty dreadful in qualifying after winning the World Cup 2 years earlier. A lot of their team were really old. They were pretty old when they won the World Cup, and they were kind of on their way out, retiring. They only actually won one game in the whole of their qualifying.
Wow.
Now, Northern Ireland beat West Germany home and away in qualifying.
Really?
And they were 11 minutes away from qualifying until the Germans scored a late winner against Albania to take their place. The Netherlands actually thought they had qualified as Spain needed to win by 11 goals in their last game against Malta, and they were only 3-1 up at half-time. So you can imagine the Dutch fans were already celebrating.
Sounds similar to the San Marino where we needed to beat them.
Yeah. But I think Malta, I don't think were like that much of whipping boys at the time. I think Spain had only beaten them something like 2-0 in Malta. And then they scored 9 goals in the second half to go through.
Wow.
Wow.
That's impressive.
And
when has that ever happened?
Yeah.
9 goals in a half.
Well, there was a lot. It was quite controversial. This was one of the big triggers for all final games to be played at the same time, because Spain were obviously playing after the Dutch had played, so they knew how many goals they needed to score. So if they were playing at the same time, they might not have happened the same way.
Sounds like something happened at half time.
Yeah. So it reminded me of one of our five-a-side leagues when we thought we'd won because the only team that could beat us needed to win like 9-0 in matches that were only 5 minutes each way.
Yeah, they were a good team.
Yeah, but we found out they in the pub afterwards that they were all sat with the other team that they beat, who they were mates with. So we were robbed of another small trophy.
We'll do another podcast episode on that.
Yeah.
Watch this space.
Wales were all set to go through until Yugoslavia scored a winner in the dying seconds of stoppage time against Bulgaria to snatch that berth. And France actually qualified for the first time since 1960, first edition of the tournament. First time, like I was saying, France had a really good team. A lot down to one Michel Platini. who at this time was the current Ballon d'Or holder, played for Juventus, top goal scorer in Serie A. I kind of chosen not to talk about anything to do with Platini post football in this, because this tournament is really all about Platini. So I'll stick to the football on this one. France had got to the semi-final in the World Cup 2 years earlier, 1982, and were knocked out on penalties to Germany. And you might know it for the Schumacher challenge, where he completely wipes out and pretty much maims. Is it Batillon, the French striker? I can't remember his name. But yeah, apart from that, the only other kind of performance to note was the 1958 World Cup, where Jules Fontaine scored 13 goals in one World Cup, a record which still stands to this day.
Ronaldo?
Yeah.
Must have got close.
Yes. Wow. And France got to the semis in that World Cup as well. But at the time, rugby was actually bigger than football in France in the early 80s. So this was kind of the start of what we see as France today, as the big footballing nation they are. In the opening game, Platini scored a late winner against Denmark. And then he goes on in the group stages to score a hat-trick against Belgium, and then another hat-trick against Yugoslavia.
2 hat-tricks in one tournament.
2 hat-tricks, yeah. His hat-trick against Belgium was a perfect hat-trick, left foot, right foot header. And so he finishes those 3 games, 7 goals, and France were kind of cruising through, and they're playing this like beautiful, stylish, attacking football, refusing to kind of play any other way, and it's all going to plan so far. Denmark finished second in their group to make the other semis. Like I said, this was the first signs of a good Danish side, and the other group was very close but very low scoring. And I had a look at Germany's starting lineups for their groups games, Matt, and I'm afraid to say there was no Müller.
No.
But there was a Voller.
I mean,
Rudy Voller.
Close.
But yeah, no Müller, no party. But Voller scored a double against Romania. And going into the final game, West Germany were top, but it was all very close. And then Portugal were playing Romania, and they scored an 81st minute winner, which meant they would go through. They would confirm them going through. And then Spain scored in stoppage time, a stoppage time winner against West Germany to knock the Germans out, and it meant they win the group and go through. So the semi-finals were France-Portugal and Denmark v Spain. Now, France-Portugal semi-final, this is said to be one of the greatest Euro games of all time, this semi-final. There's 55,000 French and probably a couple of Portuguese descended on the Stade Velodrome in Marseille, a stone's throw from the French Riviera. And Jean-François Demer was playing left back due to the first choice left back being sent off in the group stages. And he was currently winning one of his only 9 caps that he got in his career for France. And then France get a free kick in the 24th minute, which obviously Platini's the free kick taker. For some reason, he let Jean-François Demer take the free kick. And I watched this free kick back, and he just steps up and rifles it into the top corner, the opposite side of the goal to the wall, bang, straight in to score his first ever goal for France. Now France are kind of controlling the game. They have a lot of chances, but they can't convert. And then Jordão scores an equaliser for Portugal in the 74th minute, and it goes to extra time. And then Jordão scores again in extra time to put Portugal 2-1 up before Demerck scores an equaliser for France in his second and final ever goal for France.
What an impact.
Now it looks like it was heading for
hat-tricks in one
penalties,
tournament.
and France just keep attacking, and Jean Ticana, who you might remember as a former Fulham manager, yes, but he was probably the second best player in the French team at this time to Platini. He breaks free in the final minute of the game and plays in no one else but Michel Platini, who makes no mistake and sends them through to the final. So in the other semi-final, Spain actually beat Denmark on penalties. It was much more closer match. Denmark were actually doing really well. Like Michael Laudrup's first ever tournament, and he was making a big impact. But it went to penalties after a 1-1 draw. Spain scored all 5, and Denmark missed 1, which saw Spain through to a final against France. And in the final, it wasn't quite the game that the semi-final was. And like I said earlier, this was the only real game that was being shown in the UK. So they missed the kind of amazing semi-final. And apparently a lot of British reporters were just there for the final. They didn't go to the semi-final. And then the final was actually quite drab. And they came back saying, oh, the tournament wasn't even worth talking about. And there's a book that someone's written which was out fairly recently, called the Greatest Tournament You've Never Seen, and it's all about the 1984 Euros. But true to form, Platini scores the opener in the final, his 9th goal in 5 games, and they end up winning 2-0 to lift the trophy in front of their home fans. And that 9 goals in a European Championships is a record that stands to this day as most ever goals in a European Championship.
Wow. Who was the next highest scorer
in one tournament, in one championship?
No, in this tournament, like how far was he ahead of the next?
Yeah. I think the next scorer had like 3, and
that's even more impressive because it was a smaller tournament.
Yeah,
there wasn't more rounds, was there?
Yeah.
Only
5 games. Yeah. 5 games.
That's some.
But he's also the second highest European Championships goal scorer overall.
Just from one tournament.
Oh, really?
The only player that's got more goals than him in European Championships is Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah.
And Cristiano Ronaldo took 5 tournaments to beat him.
And 5 bigger tournaments with more potentially more matches.
5 bigger tournaments. And I had a look at who's playing in the current tournament who might be able to catch him. And the closest is actually another Frenchman, Antoine Griezmann, who's on 7, who could overtake Platini. But yeah, and you think Mbappe, who's already scored so many World Cup goals, he didn't score in his first Euros. He hasn't scored in this one, and he's out with a broken nose now.
Spoilers.
Spoilers, we haven't got to that.
He's still young.
But yeah, he'll do well to score 9 in this tournament.
He's a very, very good player.
He's a very good player. Following the 1984 tournament, Platini would go on to win his second Ballon d'Or of his 3 in a row Ballon d'Ors that he won.
Did he get 3 in a row?
He got 3 in a row.
Wow.
Yeah, 83, 84, 85. He played again for France in 1986 World Cup, and where they would lose to the Germans in the semi-finals on penalty again. Sound familiar? Yes. But he actually retired before Euro 88, which is why his 9 European Championship goals are the only European Championship goals he's got. But good enough to leave him in that record books as such an amazing championship. But yeah, the tournament was Platini. It was France. It was magnifique.
He may not have had a chance to score any more goals anyway, because as a shock, France didn't qualify for the finals of Euro 88. And it's the last time they haven't qualified for a Euro.
Right.
And it's the last time a reigning champion hasn't qualified for the following tournament. So even if he continued playing for France, maybe he wouldn't have, or maybe they didn't qualify because he retired. Who knows? So off the back of the format changes for 84, 88 followed the same format. 8 teams, 2 groups of 4. Top 2 go through to semi-finals and finals. No third and fourth place playoff. It was hosted in West Germany, who had won the...
Topical.
Yes, who had won the bid to host it. They'd beaten a joint Scandinavian bid and that received 1 vote, and an England bid that received no votes.
But both would go on to have their time.
Yes.
It feels like every tournament we've reviewed so far nearly was held in England.
Yes. It does feel like that for a lot of tournaments in my life, I think.
Yeah.
They were knocked out, France, so they were knocked out in qualifying by our old Euro Championship favourites, the Soviet Union.
They're back.
They're back with a vengeance. And France had finished third in the previous World Cup as well. So they won the Euros, then finished third in the World Cup and didn't make. It shows like with an 8-team format, you're going to lose. There's going to be some big teams that don't make it because there's 32 qualifiers. There weren't as many shocks in qualifying as in 84. Belgium, the 1980 runners-up, and the World Cup 86 semi-finalists didn't qualify. And Portugal, that we were just talking about, got to the semi-final. They also didn't qualify for the 88. Belgium didn't qualify because they got knocked out in qualification. Well, the team that won their group stage were Ireland, who qualified for a major tournament for the first time in their history under the managership of Jack Charlton. West Germany obviously qualified as hosts, and I've already mentioned that the Soviet Union qualified. This was both countries' 5th appearances in in a finals championship so far, which was more than anyone else. But it was the last time that these teams would appear in as they are, because by the next tournament, Germany had unified. And the USSR had disintegrated into 15 countries.
Spoiler alert.
So yes, it was sort of the end of an era, but the beginning of a new dawn. Something else that Euro 88 was known for was the rare occurrence of a whole tournament with no sendings off, no goalless draws, and no extra time or penalties.
Wow. When's that? That's never happened.
No sendings off, I think I'm most surprised about.
Yeah.
It's always
penalty shootout. I mean, it's
not even extra time. Not even extra times.
Wow. That is very surprising. Yeah.
So in a couple of political things occurred. So in the planning for it, West Germany made the choice not to host any matches in West Berlin because there was a disagreement with the Eastern Bloc about whether West Berlin was part of West Germany. That was still ongoing. So in order that no Eastern European members would pull out of the tournament, they decided to not host any games in Berlin. Weirdly, the 3 games in the 1974 World Cup were hosted in Berlin, but I guess tensions had grown on that. But they did hold a little 4-nation tournament in Berlin the previous year that included Russia and West Germany as a kind of make-up for it. So the opening match was between 2 of the tournament favourites, which were West Germany and Italy. So the hosts, who had won Euro 1980, and they had been runners-up in the last 2 World Cups. And they were also the hosts, so they were sort of very commonly considered the favourites. The Italians, despite not having played in 84, had obviously won the 82 World Cup, so they weren't seen as outsiders. Roberto Mancini scored the first goal of the tournament.
Big name.
Who has obviously had success as Italy manager in the tournament at some point in the future.
Yeah. No spoilers.
I don't know if you remember around this time. I remember around this time because I was playing in goal a bit, but there were changes of rules to the how long a goalkeeper could hold on to the ball and stuff.
Yeah.
So the equaliser for West Germany was scored from a free kick after Walter Zenga took more than 4 steps with the ball in his hand.
4 steps? Oh, was that? You couldn't take more than 4 steps?
Do you know, I really remember that coming in. Like, you can't take 4 steps.
I remember it's Italia 90 being the trigger for no pass backs because some of the games were so boring.
Yeah, I remember it was about, because keepers would just hold onto the ball and run around the area. So this was one of the rules. But the 4-step rule. I really remember it coming in and like everyone, we got to count the steps.
How many steps?
Paul always did a lot of that.
A lot of passing back.
Messing around. It's been really frustrating as a fan to watch that.
Yeah. So after an opening game draw, West Germany went on they swept aside the Danes and the Spanish in their other 2 group matches, and they qualified for the semi-finals as group winners. It was a tournament of some really nice goals, one of which being a goal that the West Germans scored against Spain with Lothar Matthäus running 40 yards and then back heeling to Rudi Völler to run onto and smash it into the corner.
Rudi Völler was brilliant in tournaments for Germany. He always scored.
Another goal I really enjoyed watching was a free kick by Gordillo for Spain from miles out. Absolutely caned it. Oh, really lovely strike. And Laudrup scored a great goal against Spain also in the same match as well. There's a 3-2 match actually to Spain. But some cracking goals, which we'll get to a few more.
There's a couple I kind of know of.
Yes, I'm sure.
Have seen.
So the Italians then win a tight match against Spain in their second game, 1-0, with Gianluca Vialli scoring the winner. And then they...
Was he a teammate of Mancini's at Sampdoria at the time?
Oh, yeah. And then they beat an already eliminated Denmark to finish runners-up. So the opening fixture was the 2 qualifiers for the semi-finals. In the other group, there are a few more shocks. Opening group game, England v Ireland. 6-minute goal for Ray Houghton. And that's how it finished. Ireland with an English manager walk away with their first win from their first game in a major tournament, beating one of their neighbours. Gary Lineker was unusually sluggish, and it was sort of commented on in reviews of the game. And it turned out he was later diagnosed with hepatitis B.
Wow.
God.
So he was forgiven.
He often had something wrong with it. Couple of years later, he had a bit of an incident.
Yeah. In the other opening match of Group B or Group 2, the Soviet Union opened with a win over the Netherlands, 1-0, despite the Dutch dominance through most of the game. USSR held firm and got a winner in the second half. Then Netherlands faced England and blew them away with a Van Basten hat-trick in Peter Shilton's 100th game for England.
Wow.
Van Basten obviously starting with a hat-trick and going on to score a few more goals.
But, this was prime Van Basten era
Ruud
at
Gullit,
Milan.
Was captain and just was he just ruled the pitch. His distribution was just great, and he just holds onto the ball. And he set up quite a lot of goals in this tournament, but he's just majestic.
If you're enjoying the Hand of Pod, follow Sterling Sports for more great football nostalgia content. If you want to get in touch with the show, you can send us a text message. Just click the link in the show notes.
Dominated a match, but also from a viewing point of view.
Yeah.
He was a big guy with his big hair. You could always see him. He was just always in eyeshot, wasn't he?
You couldn't help but follow him around the pitch.
Yeah.
The Irish and the Soviets drew 1-1, meaning that they were joint leaders of the group with one game to go.
Yeah.
So in the final game, Netherlands needed to beat Ireland to go through. They did so to qualify. So Ireland ended up in disappointment, getting knocked out in third place. And the Soviet Union soundly thrashed England 3-1 to qualify top of the group. So England end up with 3 losses from 3 and a goal difference of -5.
Oh, God. What was the famous Irish goal?
Oh, yeah. So the famous Ronnie Whelan's goal against the Soviet
Ronnie
Union.
Whelan, that's it. Yeah.
Absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
Long throw in from the left-hand side of the pitch, all the way across, past the semicircle at the edge of the box, and just onto Ronnie Whelan's left foot and just straight into the top corner. It is a marvel to watch. What a goal! And like to hit it, like no bounces, just cracking goal.
I mean, Ireland. That was some time to be an Irish football fan, wasn't it?
Well, I think,
and then Italia 90, and then USA 94.
I think
incredible.
A lot of Irish football fans were born through the success of this tournament, and then
probably a lot of Ronnies and Rays were born.
Yes, and Jacks,
and Jacks, a lot of Jacks.
So we get to the semi-finals, and the first semi-final is an old rivalry between West Germany and the Netherlands. Having said that, it's actually only the third time they'd played since the 1974 World Cup final. A penalty each made it 1-1 until Van Basten pops up and scores a winner in the 88th minute to give the Dutch their first competitive victory against West Germany and gain their first appearance in a European Cup final. So Van Basten didn't play in the first Netherlands game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he was started on the bench, and John Bosman was the striker for the Netherlands, not the famous
off of the Bosman ruling.
No, different Bosman. And Bosman was the leading scorer in qualifying.
Right.
And then played the first game. And then Van Basten had been struggling with injuries throughout most of the season.
Throughout most of his career.
And just sort of came into top form for the tournament. But there was a game between Holland and Cyprus in the qualifying, which obviously Bosman had scored in, where they think it was a bomb, maybe a firework, but it exploded close to the Cypriot goalkeeper, who was stretchered off and replaced. But then the Cypriot players left the field in protest and refused to continue playing.
Right.
The Dutch side pressured the referee and decided that the game could continue, and the match ended 8-0, with Bosman establishing a national team record of 5 goals in one game.
Wow.
However, it wasn't officially recognised as UEFA decided the match was invalid, and Cyprus were awarded a 3-0 victory instead.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's probably Cyprus's biggest ever win.
Yeah. Obviously, the Netherlands ended up qualifying, and all was fine. There was one more interesting, funny thing that happened in the first semi-final, where Ronald Koeman swapped shirts with Olaf Thon at the end, and went stood in front of the German fans and wiped his ass with the.
Oh, wow.
Always hated Koeman.
He later apologised for it.
Yeah.
Damage is done by then, though, surely.
Yeah.
Well, it was the next meeting was Italia 90, and that was the Rijkaard spit on Volo, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it's definitely. I'd say I think it's the fiercest rivalry in European international football. I think.
Yeah.
So second semi-final, Italy versus the Soviet Union. Italy are favourites for this. They'd beaten the Soviet Union 4-1 in a friendly just 2 months prior.
Yeah.
But wasn't to be. Soviets won 2-0 to make a record fourth appearance in a Euro final. So we move on to the final with the host being eliminated. We're in the Olympiastadion in Munich, that famous wavy roof over.
Oh yes, yeah.
The 5-1 stadium.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
It actually wasn't the closest to finals, but it was exciting and was memorable for one particular moment. Ruud Gullit scored the first goal, and then we have. So after having my 1970s Euro review being a very famous winning penalty, I think I've now got with the Euro '98 probably the most famous winning goal of a Euro tournament.
Yeah, I mean, just one of the most famous goals in history.
What a goal!
Yeah. So, but what do you reckon? Do you think that's more? Do you think the Van Basten volley is more iconic than the Panenka penalty?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it took more.
Yeah.
I mean, still like really high skill levels on both.
Yeah.
But then put it in context. So Panenka penalty. This is the penalty to win it.
Yeah.
Whereas Van Basten they're already 1-0 up. It's not got quite got the pressure.
But if you wanted to watch one back, you'd choose Van Basten's goal.
It is a thing of beauty.
Yeah.
So that became Van Basten's fifth goal of the tournament, and he was the highest scorer. There were only two other players that scored more than one goal in the tournament.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Rudi Völler?
Rudi Völler was one of them, yes.
Yes. Of course he was.
And bearing in mind, Van Basten obviously didn't play all the games as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the hat-trick obviously helps. Netherlands take home their first ever major tournament win. Interestingly, 4 of the Netherlands players had just won the European Cup with PSV as well.
Oh yeah,
they won it.
Yeah. Koeman. Yeah, that was, and then Koeman went to Barcelona on the back of that tournament.
Ruud Gullit had just won the Italian league in his first season over there as well. It's a very successful time for a lot of Dutch players.
Yeah, I mean, it's still their only ever tournament win, isn't it?
Yeah. In the aftermath, 1 million people lined Amsterdam's canal for a canal boat tour of the trophy. So they went along the canals with the trophy.
Wow, 1 million in Amsterdam.
Yeah, and quite a lot of houseboats sunk under the weight of people standing on the top. And they say that the celebrations in Holland after the semi-final win against West Germany were the biggest public gathering seen in the country since the end of the Second World War.
Wow, that's incredible.
And the Soviets, having lost their third final, remain the only team to lose in 3 European finals.
Wow. It's funny because you say about like the Dutch and their players being so successful at club level at that time, but the previous kind of successful Dutch team that got to those World Cup finals, the majority of the team were in the Ajax teams of the 70s that won 3 European Cups on the bounce.
Yeah.
So it kind of...
well, the manager of
happens a lot.
The Netherlands was the same manager, but he was back for his 3rd out of 4 stints as manager. Yeah. Before you start Euro '92, did you notice that the logo for the Euros for all of these tournaments, I think since the 70s, is the exact same logo with a wavy UEFA and then
Yeah,
the colours
yeah.
of the flag of the host country over the top, and then
Yeah.
I hadn't noticed that.
Yeah, because I did actually purposely think, was there a French logo for Euro 84? And I was like, and that's when I saw, it's always that same one with just loads of colours.
Spoiler alert, it changed in 96.
Okay. Well, we won't say that until the next episode. But yeah, the French did have a mascot for the tournament, though, which I didn't say, which was a big cock.
The logo had been the same since the beginning, 1960.
Oh, since 1960?
Yeah, they just kept the same logo.
So, yeah, I mean, Euro 88 was another followed Euro 84, another kind of classic tournament that everyone remembers to this day. It really has come on a long way in the last kind of couple of tournaments, hasn't it? That takes us to Euro 92, which Torben's going to tell us all about.
Yes, Euro 92. Euro 1992. So Sweden were the hosts, off the back of hosting Eurovision a few months before. So
we love a Eurovision reference.
They were showcasing themselves very well that year. And it was a tournament of quite a few firsts and lasts as well.
Yeah.
So there was a new winner of the tournament. We'll come on to that later. It was the first time, I believe, that a team was disqualified ahead of the tournament and another team invited to come in. So Yugoslavia, due to the wars that was going on there, were disqualified. And as a result of that, as a result of the breakup of the country, Denmark were invited to take their place, having come runners-up in their qualifying group.
Right.
And which was a bit of a shame, actually, obviously for a number of reasons. But Yugoslavia had actually had a very good qualifying campaign. They had the highest goal scorer of the whole qualifying and looked very good. It was the last 8-team format, so 2 groups of 4.
Yeah.
In qualifying, there's 7 groups, and the winner of each went through.
And the host nation.
And the host nation, of course, yeah.
Sweden, yeah.
And yeah, a lot of teams, a lot of big names missed out on this one as well. So Spain only finished 3rd in their group. France won theirs. Scotland won their group, ahead of Bulgaria, Romania, Switzerland. The Soviet Union, or as they were known in the tournament, the CIS national football team, which is the Commonwealth of Independent States, after the breakup of the Soviet Union. And so they qualified for the tournament, but yeah, they had played under that name. And it's also the first major tournament for a unified Germany as well.
So was it the Soviet Union team or the CIS team? Was it made up of the former Soviet countries?
Yeah, almost all of them. But there were some that weren't involved or that weren't officially involved. However, one or two of the players from the former Soviet Union that weren't part of the CIS still went through to play for them.
Right.
So it's a bit of a patch together,
isn't it? So it's like the country split up, but they haven't had time to form new countries and football teams.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, they didn't have. So by the next tournament they had done, but yeah, so they hadn't. They kind of patched together a team. And then, Yugoslavia topped their group, but weren't able to play. So Denmark went through as runners-up. Germany won their group, ahead of Wales and Belgium. Netherlands went through as winners of their group, beating Portugal, Greece, and England topped their group, ahead of Republic of Ireland, Poland, and Turkey. So, yeah, Italy didn't make it. Spain didn't make it. Belgium, Portugal. So, some big names.
Yeah.
That aren't there. The last tournament is an 8-team tournament. It was also the last to award the winner of each match with only 2 points in the group stages. So after that, it became a bigger tournament. They got 3 points for a win.
Right.
It was the last before the introduction of the pass-back rule. or the back pass rule, which was brought in immediately after the tournament. We talked about that.
Well, yeah, I thought it was after Italia 90 because I knew it was 94. It was USA 94. They didn't have it anymore.
So after the highs of 1990 for England, England's in a bit of a transition and hire Graham Taylor after his successes with Villa and with Watford earlier on in his managerial career. Big names, stalwarts such as Shilton, Brian Robson, Terry Butcher had all retired. Paul Gascoigne hadn't played since his injury in the 1991 FA Cup final. And Taylor had chosen to phase out Chris Waddle despite his form at Marseille, where he was playing particularly well. He also opted against Ian Wright, who was top goal scorer in English football that season.
Yeah.
So he was...
Lineker's still there.
Lineker was still there, yeah. So it's a transition time for England, but...
That's a lot of bold choices.
A lot of bold choices, yeah. You know, an England manager nowadays will bow to the pressure of the media, perhaps, or, you know, at least make... There's always one or two controversial decisions, isn't there, going into a tournament?
Yeah.
You know, over the years, there's always one or two names where it could be...
Leaving out Waddle is huge.
Right. The right one seems...
Yeah, right. Was Shearer there?
Shearer was there, yeah. So that's early in this tournament.
He was young as well at that point, Shearer.
Yeah. 92, yeah.
It was
so early days.
Smaller squads than we're used to as well, wasn't it, back then?
Yeah, so they're only allowed to take 20, although England only managed to take 19.
Brilliant.
Because by all accounts, Taylor selected Mark Wright, but didn't realise that he was injured. And on the day where they were heading off, he's like, "Oh, where's Mark Wright?" One of his teammates, he's still up in Liverpool. But by then the deadline had passed and they couldn't bring in another player, so they went with 19 rather than 20.
We kind of think of Graham Taylor as a really unlucky England manager because of the do or not like that stuff. But there's some. You're presenting an argument that maybe he wasn't just unlucky.
Yeah, I'm not presenting him in a great light here. Yeah. And then there was injuries as well for England. Rob Jones, Lee Dixon, Gary Stevens at right back. And Dixon twisted his ankle running in the woods to keep fit, apparently. So not even in some sort of big tackle in a cup final or anything. Yeah, so Denmark were invited in and proved to be quite a decent team in this particular tournament. They hadn't qualified. They'd had, as we previously talked about, they'd had some good success for their nation, qualified for tournaments and actually done quite well in the mid-80s with the likes of Michael Laudrup, and played with a certain attacking style. And with the song, they're red, we're red, we're white, we're Danish Dynamite.
Danish Dynamite, yeah, that was the kind of catchy line for the game.
Well, they sung it in English.
I guess so, yeah.
It didn't rhyme in Danish.
No, maybe it did. But they hadn't qualified for the World Cup 90. And so they had made some changes to the management. They had hired a manager who hadn't actually finished his previous role, was still technically employed. And so they had to reverse on that decision and ended up going with what was thought to be their third or fourth choice on the list in the end, in Nielsen. And he was playing a lot more of a defensive style and not the attacking dynamite version that the team had been famous for, and the players enjoy playing. So actually in this tournament, Michael Laudrup, despite being one of the greatest players at the time on the planet, and having had such high form with Barcelona, winning the league with them, Michael and his brother Brian decided to quit at the age of 26, and I'm not sure how old Brian was, but off the back of that, they decided not to play under Nielsen. So he's handicapped going into it, although he did manage to talk Brian into coming back, and so Brian did play, but right. Michael didn't. So that's
Peter Schmeichel in goal.
Peter Schmeichel in goal, indeed. So So yeah, it's format, two groups of four. The top two qualifying to go through to the knockout stage. England are in a group with France, Denmark, and the host Sweden. And in the other group, the Netherlands, Germany, Scotland, and CIS, formerly known as the Soviet Union.
Sounds like a furniture store.
Yeah, they weren't like that in Sweden.
So it starts off a little bit slow. Couple of draws. So England drew 0-0 with Denmark. Sweden drew with France 1-1. England then have another 0-0 with France. So they're now two draws, needing to win or at least get something from their last game against Sweden, who are the hosts. Yeah, going into the final game of the group, England need to get a result. They score early on with David Platt, who's one of England's top goal scorers, I think, from midfield over the years.
Yeah.
Certainly as a ratio, he scored a lot of good goals. And so, England score early in that game, David Platt, after just 4 minutes. And then Sweden just start to get a bit more of a grip on the game. They equalise just after half-time. Home crowd, the nerves start to get into England a little bit. And then there's the famous Barry Davis commentary of Brolin, Darlene, Brolin, brilliant! Right into the top corner, 82nd minute, crushed England hearts, and Sweden go through.
Yes, it seems to be the common theme of Graham Taylor's England career was just classic commentary, not in his favour.
What was it like in the Kane household in that game?
Do you know what? I can't quite remember, but I'm more supportive of England than I am Sweden. Although when the two teams are playing each other, a little bit torn loyalties. But I'll always prefer an England win than a Sweden win.
Yeah. Thing is, it's your mum that's Swedish, and I can't imagine she's that bothered about football.
Not too bothered. No, she's not too bothered. Bless her. So in the other final game in the group, Denmark beat France 2-1. So an early goal from Larsen. France equalise after 60 minutes with Jean-Pierre Papin.
Papin.
You might remember, scored some good goals. And then Denmark scored to put themselves through 2-1 with 12 minutes to go. So in the other group, the Netherlands beat Scotland 1-0. Dennis Bergkamp. Germany and the CIS is 1-1. Hassler with a.
Is there much of that Dutch team from '88 remaining?
Yeah, there is actually. Yeah, so you've got who have you got? You've still got Rijkaard there. Van Basten is still there. Yeah. Koeman. So some big names.
Philip's still captain.
Philip's still captain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you'd still be expecting them to be challenging the Dutch after '88 and Italia '90. There's still kind of high hopes for Holland in this tournament.
Yeah, still a great team, being the holders as well at that time as well.
Germans going in as world champions, of course.
Yeah, and now unified. So
another Holland-Germany matchup.
Yeah,
third tournament in a row.
Indeed, and that was the last game of the group. Klinsmann scores for Germany, but that was only to make it 2-1 because Netherlands has already scored twice through Rijkaard and Witschiger, who scored a really good free kick. I say really good, an impressive free kick from really far out, but it just stayed really low and goes into the far corner.
Oh, wow.
But it looks kind of it's almost, because it's not in the air, it almost looks like it's slow motion and the keeper probably should have done better. He drills it. And then Bergkamp scores to make it 3-1. Germany still go through those as runners-up in the group.
Yeah.
And Netherlands.
Was anyone called Müller playing for Germany?
Probably.
Oh, I didn't confirm that there were no Müllers. There were no Müllers in '88 either.
Oh,
there you go.
Rubbish.
And
But Riedler and Hassler, Effenberg, there's some big names.
Sammer.
Klinsmann.
Oh, there's a Müller. There's an O umlaut Müller as opposed to a U umlaut. So there's a Müller.
Is that Muller?
The one that
Müller
scored the winning penalty against us in '96.
There you go.
Oh, really?
Muller, yeah. Spoiler, sorry. Next time.
Next episode. So into the semi-finals, the Netherlands and Denmark face up.
I mean, Holland must be heavy favourites going into that.
Yeah.
The Danes having sneaked through qualifying.
Well, they sneaked through qualifying. But yeah, they're going into the match favourites. You look at the lineups. And it's an interesting game. Denmark get an early goal through Larsen. Netherlands equalise through Bergkamp. Denmark go 2-1 up. Larsen again. And then it's half time. And then it's a fairly quiet second half. But right in the last few minutes, Rijkaard scores an equaliser to take it into extra time. No further goals in extra time, so it goes to penalties. Koeman scores his. Larsen scores his, and then Van Basten misses.
Of all people.
Of all the people.
Van Basten misses.
And Denmark go on to score all of theirs. Bergkamp, Rijkaard, Witschke score all of theirs, and Denmark go through 5-4 on penalties.
If only Van Basten, scorer of the iconic winning goal from the previous tournament, had done a Panenka famous winning penalty of another tournament.
Yeah,
that's it.
No,
I feel like we were robbed of an amazing final of Holland-Germany final.
Yeah, that's
true. After what had been happening for the previous few tournaments.
That would have been tasty.
No Eastern European representation of semi-finals, which I think is very rare for the tournament so far.
Yeah.
What with the Soviets and Hungary, and Yugoslavia featured in a couple, and
Czechoslovakia.
Yeah. It's a very, not just Western European, Northern European tournament.
Dominant. And it was Peter Schmeichel who saved Van Basten's penalty.
Oh, he saved it, did he?
Yeah, he saved it. So, it's a big launch pad for his career at that stage to take him. I guess it was shortly after that he joined United.
I think he might have already been at United.
Was he already there?
Yeah.
Around that time.
I think it was 90 or 91 he went to United.
Oh, okay.
Off the top of my head. I'll have to check.
So Sweden, the hosts, in the other semi-final, Sweden versus Germany. And Germany take an early lead. Brolin gets a penalty. Germany score twice in the second half. And Sweden get a late goal, but it's not enough to take it through to extra time. Germany win 3-2. Yeah, so then it's Denmark, Germany in the final. Yeah, Denmark just kind of did enough, dominated. Not necessarily dominated the match, but 2-0 win. Jensen and Vilfort, famous goal for them, and Denmark win the tournament, having not qualified. And it's their first and to date only major honours. In World Football.
It feels like every game they were going in as underdogs, as well as just the tournament.
Yeah,
like every single game, they're playing someone you'd expect them to lose to,
and they just keep getting results,
going until they beat the Germans in the final. God, incredible!
Beating the Germans in the final on Swedish soil as well. So they're kind of big rivals, neighbourly rivals there. So probably a sweet tournament for them to win. And lots of decent goals in the tournament. Hassler free kick, Jean-Pierre Papin, Riedler, Bergkamp's goals, the Brolin one versus England. Dennis Bergkamp scored a great goal against Denmark. So there's some really good goals, really decent tournament. Just as an England fan, you just don't really remember it in such a high regard.
I literally have no, apart from the Brolin goal against us. I really don't remember any of the rest of the tournament.
No, it wasn't. But if you were Danish, you would.
Yeah, definitely.
And actually, I was looking at some other. It's quite a low. I mean, I guess the Swedish stadiums aren't particularly big, but there's some particularly low attendances. So, for example, the Scottish game against the CIS, formerly Soviet Union, where Scotland win 3-0. So it's probably one of their best games in the in a major tournament, especially against the former Soviet Union, who are a big name themselves. But only just under 15,000 people watching that. So.
To be fair, in the Njorköping Stadium, that might have been full capacity.
Yeah, that's it.
I just looked.
McAllister penalty.
I just looked up because I thought I wanted to know what the odds were on Denmark before the tournament. Thinking, I wonder how it compared to the Leicester odds before the Premier League.
Yeah, or Greece 2004, was it? No,
doesn't come close. The Danes were the rank outsiders, but the odds were 20-1. So,
I guess an 8-team tournament. It's,
you'd have had to bet a lot of money to have seen some returns on there.
You'd have to bet after Yugoslavia qualified.
Yes. Yeah, true.
It seems a war kicked off.
Quick, there's a
Denmark
war going on.
aren't in the tournament. You walk it. I'd like to place a bet on Denmark to win the league, to win the Euros. Mate, they haven't qualified. We don't have any odds. Still.
You never know.
It's like one from Old Moore's Almanac.
Yeah.